no? How many of you have ever felt guilty when you have said no to someone, to a coworker, to a team member, or etc.? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about how to say no without feeling guilty about it. And there's two approaches to it, or two ways that we'll approach it in this video. And you absolutely want to watch this video until the end, because you want to make sure you have the big picture in terms of how to navigate these situations when they come up. If you are new to me, welcome. And if you are one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to develop an unfair competitive advantage as it relates to how you communicate under pressure. Appreciate the heart emoji, friends, and want to say hello to Cat 23rd. Cat says morning and heart. High five, Cat. Good to see you, friend. Hope you had an amazing weekend. How many of you have ever felt guilty for saying no? Put it in the comments below. We have all been there at some point in time. Now, when it comes to saying no and the guilt part of it, as I mentioned in the very beginning, there's two ways we want to go about approaching this issue when it comes up. The first is internally. Many times when you find yourself feeling guilty, there's typically a reason why you feel guilty. If you were a client of mine and we were in a executive coaching session, I would ask you, why do you feel guilty when you say no? And wait for your response. Now you can ask yourself this same question. Why do you feel guilty when you say no? Many of the responses that I have seen over the years are, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't want to make people upset. I don't want to rock the boat. There's so many reasons as to why people say no, but feel very guilty about doing that. So there's the internal part. There's a couple things that I want you to keep in mind as it relates to the feeling of guilt. And then we'll talk about specifically what you can say in those situations to help you manage this emotional feeling of guilt that you have when you are saying no to someone, whether it's in a leadership role or etc. Before I go into that, let me go into the chat. Cat 23rd says, it's been a hectic weekend, but it's Monday. It's a fresh start. Well, fantastic, Cat. I'm glad that this is the new beginning for you for the week, and I hope things settle down for you very soon. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. We talked about there's reasons why you feel guilty. And so let's dive a bit more into that. As we age as individuals, we're always taught to some extent to be people pleasers. And we don't want to make people upset. We don't want to make people mad, which is why there's a lot of people that struggle when it comes to very polarizing issues in the world, in their positions, in their roles, in their businesses, because they don't want to make a decision and stand on their decision. That's a lot of times why people are very hesitant to say no or to set boundaries, specifically because they have that internal fear of, oh, I don't know how to say it, I don't know what to say, and I don't want to make anybody feel bad. That happens internally. Now, you let me know, what are some of the reasons that you have noticed that make you feel guilty for saying no? Put them in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Now, when you're in those situations, I want you to remember this one aspect of it. If you have whatever the circumstances are, think about it this way. What is it going to cost you to not say no? Think about it. It could be your time, it could be your income, it could be your sanity, and you'll have to weigh out, if this situation happens, or I don't say no, or I don't address this issue, how much is this going to cost me? And sometimes there may not be a dollar amount to that. It may specifically be something intangible that you can't see, but you know is there. And if you find that the cost of not saying anything is worth it, then you will probably feel guilty saying no. However, if you find that the cost is not worth it, it's not worth your sanity, it's not worth you losing money, it's not worth your security, your safety, then that should make you feel a bit more confident about saying no, so that you do not feel guilty about saying no. Many times people don't think about it in that way. We think of, oh, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. Oh, I want to make sure that no one's upset, or they don't get mad at me, or they try to retaliate against me, and all of that. Now, you do need to keep those perspectives in mind, of course, But think about, what is it going to cost you to stay where you are? And if you're at a place where you are struggling with this, I encourage you to reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org. I will be more than happy to help you not struggle with this ever again. Let me go to the chat really quickly. Kat says, I'm scared of saying no to people. Feel like I'm letting them down. How do you work on that if you're always a yes man? Okay, Kat, I'm going to take a picture of that because that is a fantastic topic, and I'm going to dedicate that probably to an evening live when I have a bit more time to talk about it. But something to consider, I say, to get us started. Specifically, if you feel the fear of letting people down, if you have made the best decision with the information that you have, with the situation you are in, you may feel that way, but know that you did the best that you could. If the situation was different, if maybe you had different data, you would go in a different direction. But oftentimes as a leader, especially when you're in those high stakes situations, you may feel like you're letting someone down. I felt like, we've all felt that way. I've felt that way also. But if you go back and make the decisions based off of what you have, the data you have, that will help you to not feel like you're letting people down. You may feel bad about it, but sometimes you're in situations where you have to make that decision. And we'll go into a lot more detail on that, especially if you are someone that is typically a yes type of person. Let's dive into that a bit more in detail for sure, Kat. So I will do a video just for you. I have a video that you mentioned last week that I'm doing this week in the evening. So we'll definitely go into that a bit more. So I want to share another thing, and if you're watching live, welcome. Let me know what part of the big beautiful world you are joining from today, and have you ever felt guilty for saying no? Let me know. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. As I mentioned, there's an internal aspect of saying no that makes you feel guilty. We are taught, don't make people upset. We feel like we have to be yes ma'am, yes sir type of people. We have this feeling that we don't want to make people upset. We don't want to let them down, as Kat mentioned. Now, we know there's an internal aspect of it. And as I mentioned, think about what is it going to cost you to stay where you are. It's going to cost a lot. It may cost a lot more than what you're willing to pay. And that should help you to have some confidence in this situation. Now, I'm going to tell you really quickly, what do you do in those situations when they come up? If I have a lot of strategies here, so feel free to subscribe to the channel to learn about them. But if I can give you just one thing in 15 seconds. When you make your statement about your boundary and whatever it is that you are dealing with specifically, stop talking after that. Stay silent. Don't say anything else as it relates to this. Why? Because if you are quiet after you have said your statement and you said no, you will oftentimes feel like you have to explain it. I got to explain it because they have to understand why I said no. You don't need to do that. Stay silent. Say what it is you have to say and say nothing else after that. This is why mastering silence is a critical skill that you want to learn how to master. Now, we'll talk about a bit more topics this week. I will see you all tomorrow for sure. And let me know if you have any topics in any other situations you're dealing with. And I'll see you all in the next video.